Let me ask you a simple question. What if the weight you've been carrying isn't life itself, but your resistance to it? We all have moments where we feel overwhelmed. The pressure, the chaos, the unexpected twists. And when those moments pile up, the natural impulses to fight, to push back, to wish things were different, better, easier. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Life doesn't bend just because we want it to. You see, most of us confuse acceptance with surrender. We think, if I accept this, I'm giving up. But that's not what true acceptance is. Real acceptance isn't about throwing your hands up. It's about opening your eyes. It's about saying, this is the way it is, and now I get to decide what I do with it. That clarity, it's freedom. It frees you from false expectations. It frees you from trying to fix what was never yours to control in the first place. It frees you to finally begin where you are, instead of where you think you should be. Look closely at the happiest people you know, not the ones who fake perfection or always smile through the pain, but the ones who move through life with a quiet kind of peace. They've stopped fighting reality. They've stopped arguing with what is. And in doing so, they've started to live. Because here's the thing, life gets lighter, not when life changes, but when your relationship to it does. And when you stop trying to reshape the entire universe to fit your expectations, you start using your energy to build something stronger within yourself. That's what this video is here for. We're going to talk about 12 harsh truths, not to scare you, not to make life feel heavier, but to help you see more clearly. Because when you stop wishing for life to be different and start facing it with open eyes and a grounded heart, something powerful shifts. You begin to grow. You begin to respond instead of react. You begin to build your life not around fantasy, but around something real, something resilient. That's not resignation. That's wisdom. And wisdom is what gives peace its roots. So take a breath. Let go of the pressure to have it all figured out. You're not here to fix the world. You're here to live within it and to live wisely. Let's begin this journey together. Because clarity isn't found in perfection, it's found in acceptance. Part 1. Nobody is coming to save you. Let's be honest. At some point in life, most of us have secretly hoped that someone, somehow, would come and fix everything. Maybe it's a person, a job, a breakthrough moment. Maybe it's the day when things finally fall into place. But here's the truth that many people avoid. Nobody is coming to save you. That's not meant to be harsh. It's meant to set you free. Because the longer you wait for someone to rescue you, the more powerless you feel. You start outsourcing your happiness, your direction, your strength to people and circumstances that were never meant to carry that weight. And that helplessness, it doesn't build character. It builds dependence. It whispers, if only someone else would change, then I'd be okay. But the Stoics knew better. They didn't sit around waiting for the world to be fair or for the perfect opportunity to arrive. They acted with what they had, from where they stood. When you take responsibility for your life, your thoughts, your actions, your mindset, you stop waiting and you start living. And no, that doesn't mean you won't ever need help. Of course, we all need support, community, encouragement. But the foundation, the starting point, that must come from within. Responsibility isn't a burden. It's freedom. Because when you realize that your progress doesn't depend on someone else showing up, you stop being stuck. You stop blaming your past. You stop waiting for the right time. You reclaim your power one small choice at a time. Ask yourself this: if no one ever gave you the green light, would you still go? If the applause never came, would you still do the work? because that's the mark of someone who's awake, someone who's done waiting. Think of your life like a house. You can keep hoping someone will walk in and renovate it, or you can pick up the hammer and start swinging. It may not look like much at first, but every nail, every board, every choice, it adds up. And one day you'll look around and realize, this is mine. I built this. I. The moment you stop waiting for rescue is the moment your real life begins. Not because everything's perfect, but because you're no longer pretending that your happiness is somebody else's job. And maybe that's the most powerful thing you can realize today. You don't need saving. You need direction. You need action. And most of all, you need belief in your own ability to rise. So don't wait for the world to hand you a ladder. Start climbing with whatever rungs you've got. Part 2, life is not fair. Let's face it, how many times have you heard or said the words, "That's not fair"? Maybe it was when someone less qualified got the job. Maybe when life dealt you a loss you didn't deserve, or when good intentions were met with silence and bad behavior got rewarded. And you know what? You're right. Life isn't fair. But here's the twist. It was never supposed to be. Fairness is a beautiful idea. It's something we create to help build just societies. But nature, the universe, the raw mechanics of life, they don't operate on fairness. They operate on reality, on cause and effect, change and chance, growth and decay. Now that might sound discouraging at first, but stay with me. Because accepting that life isn't fair isn't defeat, it's liberation. When you let go of the illusion that things should be fair, you stop wasting your energy fighting what is. And that's when something powerful happens. You shift from complaining to adapting, from blaming to building, from reacting to responding. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, understood this deeply. Born a slave, he didn't waste time crying out that life was unfair. Instead, he focused on what he could control: his attitude, his actions, and his integrity. That's where real power begins. Let me ask you, what if instead of asking, "Why me?" you asked, "What now? What can I do right here with what I've got?" That shift in mindset, that's where strength is forged. Because when you stop expecting fairness, you stop being fragile. You become flexible. You learn to bend without breaking. You develop the grit to keep moving, even when life doesn't play by your rules. And let's be honest, some of the strongest people you know didn't get there through ease. They got there through hardship, through getting knocked down and standing up again, not because it was fair, but because they refused to quit. So yes, it's okay to feel disappointed, to acknowledge the unfairness. But don't set up camp there. Don't let it define you. Instead, let it refine you. Make peace with the uneven terrain of life. Walk it anyway. Grow anyway. Succeed anyway. Because life may not be fair, but you can still be focused. You can still be resilient. You can still write your own story, even if the ink runs out halfway through a chapter. Fairness may not be promised, but your response, that's always within your power. So next time life throws you a curveball, don't ask for fair. Ask for strength, and then become it. Part 3. Time is your most precious resource. Let's take a moment to talk about something we all have, but not forever. Time, not money, not possessions, not even health. Time is the one thing that slips through your fingers, whether you're ready or not. You can lose money and earn it back. You can fail and start over. But time, once it's gone for good. And yet, think about it. How casually do we spend it? We scroll for hours. We say yes to things we don't care about. We put off our dreams for later, as if later is a guarantee. The truth is, you're not spending time. you're trading it. Every yes is a trade. Every hour wasted is an hour you never get back. So let me ask you honestly, if time were money in your bank account, would you still be spending it the same way? There's a quote by Seneca that's always stayed with me. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. And he was right, because your time is your life. It's your story, your energy, your potential, and if you don't manage it, someone else will. Here's the shift. Start treating time like a sacred resource, not something to kill, but something to build with. Wake up earlier, not to be productive for productivity's sake, but to create space for what truly matters. Set boundaries, not to isolate yourself, but to protect your focus and your peace. Say no, gently but firmly, to things that drain you so you can say yes to what fulfills you. Because at the end of the day, most people don't regret the things they did. They regret the time they didn't use well, the chances they didn't take, the people they didn't call, the purpose they ignored because they were too busy. But busy with what? With things that won't even matter in a year? With distractions that didn't add a single chapter to your story? So here's your reminder, gentle but urgent. You have time right now, but you won't always. You don't need more hours in a day. You need more intention in the hours you already have. Spend your time like you'll never get it back, because you won't. And when you do, you won't just make progress. You'll live a life that actually feels worth the time it takes. Part 4, not everyone will like you, and that's okay. Here's a truth most of us struggle with, quietly but constantly. Not everyone will like you. And the sooner you accept that, the freer you become. Because here's what really happens when you chase universal approval. You bend, you shrink, you edit yourself down into a version that's easier for others to digest, at the cost of your own authenticity. You hold back your opinions. You smile when you're hurting. You say yes when everything inside you screams no. All for what? A little validation? A temporary nod of approval? The truth is, seeking to be liked by everyone is like trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how tightly you grip, it slips through. Let me ask you this. How many times have you said something honest and someone misunderstood you? How many times have you done the right thing and still been judged for it? That's because people view you through their own lens, their own baggage, their own values, wounds, and stories. And guess what? That lens isn't about you. This isn't an invitation to become arrogant or indifferent. It's a call to return to yourself, to realize that your self-worth isn't a group project. You don't need a round of applause to be proud of your values. You don't need everyone's agreement to feel at peace with your choices. And most importantly, you don't need to be liked to live a meaningful life. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "If you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich." And he wasn't talking about money. He was talking about freedom. You gain inner wealth by letting go of the need to perform for approval, by choosing alignment over popularity, integrity over people-pleasing. Because the goal isn't to be liked by everyone, it's to live in a way that you can like yourself. And when you do that, something amazing happens. The right people, those who see you clearly and love you as you are, start to show up. And the rest, they fade out. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk your path, but you are meant to walk it with confidence, clarity, and peace. So if someone doesn't like you, let them. You've got better things to do, like becoming the kind of person you admire. Part 5. People reveal themselves through actions, not words. Let me ask you something we've all quietly wondered. How many times have you trusted someone's words, only to be disappointed by their actions? We live in a world where talk is cheap, promises come easy, apologies roll off the tongue. But none of it means anything without one simple thing: follow through. Here's the truth. People don't reveal who they are by what they say. They reveal it by what they consistently do. You can't build a stable life on words alone. A friend who always says they care but never shows up when it matters. A partner who talks about forever but disappears when things get hard. A colleague who promises big things but never delivers when the pressure hits. In the end, actions always speak louder and more truthfully than intentions. This doesn't mean we should walk around constantly suspicious. It means we should be observant, not naive, attentive, not judgmental. Because the people around you are always showing you who they are. Not in grand gestures, but in small patterns. Do they show up when it's inconvenient? Do they take responsibility when they mess up? Do they do what they said they would, especially when no one's watching? Pay attention to these details, because over time, those patterns form a character. And that's what you're dealing with, not just the personality they present. Here's a simple rule of thumb I try to live by. Don't fall in love with potential. Fall in love with patterns. If someone's actions consistently align with kindness, respect, and accountability, you can trust that. But if their words and actions don't match, trust the action always. It can be hard, especially when emotions are involved. We want to believe the best in people. We hope they'll change. We hold on to the version of them we created in our mind. But Stoic wisdom reminds us to see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. And that includes people. Watch their habits, not their promises. Judge their consistency, not their charm. Because in the end, integrity doesn't need to announce itself. It proves itself. Quietly, steadily, every single day. So let people talk. Let them explain, justify, or promise. But you pay attention to the trail they leave behind. That's where the truth lives. Part 6. You can't change others, only yourself. Let's be honest. At some point in your life, you've probably tried to change someone. Maybe to help them, maybe to save them, maybe just to make the relationship work. You saw their potential. You believed in who they could become. And you thought, maybe, just maybe, if you loved them enough, guided them enough, gave them enough chances, they'd finally change. But here's one of life's toughest truths. You can't change people who don't want to change themselves. Trying to fix others, no matter how well-intentioned, almost always leads to frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. You give more than you should. You bend your boundaries. You wait for that magical moment when they finally get it. But deep down, you already know. That moment may never come. So what can you do? You stop trying to control their evolution and start focusing on your own, because that's where your real power lies. Not in manipulating outcomes or rescuing others, but in shaping your own responses, your own growth, your own limits. Ask yourself, am I here to rescue or to respect? Am I pouring energy into change that isn't mine to make? Think about a time when you've tried to drag someone toward growth. Did it work, or did it just drain you? People don't change because you push them. They change because they're ready, and readiness can't be forced. It has to come from within. Now, that doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you become cold or indifferent. It means you love without trying to rescue. It means you set boundaries without guilt. It means you say, I believe in your growth, but I'm not going to sacrifice mine waiting for it. This mindset doesn't just protect your peace, it honors theirs. It gives them the dignity of making their own choices, even if those choices come with pain or consequences. And in the meantime, you rise, you stop waiting, you do the work that's yours to do, healing your own patterns, reinforcing your limits, and living with integrity. Because at the end of the day, the only transformation you can truly control is your own. And when you embody growth instead of forcing it, something powerful happens. You become the example, not the enforcer. And that, my friend, speaks louder than any attempt to change someone ever could. Part 7. Your mind is both your prison and your key. Let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you stopped and really listened to the voice in your head? That constant stream of thoughts, the doubts, the what ifs, the worst case scenarios, the self-criticism that shows up right when you're trying to grow. Here's the truth most people overlook. Your mind can either be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. It can trap you in fear, anxiety, and limitation, or it can unlock clarity, peace, and purpose. That depends not on what happens to you, but on how you've trained your thoughts to respond. See, your external life is often a reflection of your internal dialogue. You can have all the tools, all the opportunities, even all the talent, but if your mindset is wired for fear, for lack, for comparison, you'll stay stuck. You'll sabotage the very success you're reaching for. But here's the good news. You're not powerless. The mind may be complex, but it's not untrainable. Think of it like this. Your brain is a garden. Whatever you plant, whatever thoughts you water, will grow. If you keep feeding anger, insecurity, victimhood, those weeds will take over. But if you start planting intention, resilience, presence, guess what? That becomes your reality. So ask yourself, what kind of thoughts am I practicing daily? Would I speak to a friend the way I speak to myself? You don't need to control every thought. That's impossible. But you can start noticing them, questioning them, redirecting them. Simple practices like journaling your beliefs, meditating, or even just pausing when your mind spirals. Those are the reps that rewire your inner world. Over time, your mind becomes less reactive and more aligned. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes the color of your thoughts. So today, make a choice. Don't just let your mind run wild like an untamed animal. Train it, gently, repeatedly, with love and discipline, because the moment you realize your thoughts are not facts, they're patterns, you start taking your power back. And that's when the cage opens. That's when the key turns. That's when the same mind that once trapped you begins to free you. Part 8. Discipline equals freedom. Let's be honest. Discipline isn't the most glamorous word. It doesn't sparkle like freedom or passion or happiness. But what if I told you it's the very foundation for all of them? See, discipline isn't about restriction. It's about reclaiming control. It's not punishment. It's permission. Permission to stop being dragged around by your impulses. Permission to build the kind of life you actually want, not just the one that happens by default. Let's break it down. Every time you hit snooze instead of waking up early to work on that project, every time you say just one more episode instead of going to bed, every time you delay that workout, skip that journal entry, give in to the easy path, you're not just losing a moment, you're reinforcing a mindset. Comfort now, cost later. Discipline flips that. It's the quiet voice that says, I know this is uncomfortable now, but I'm playing the long game. Because yes, discipline is short-term discomfort, but what does it buy you? Clarity, progress, self-respect, and most of all, freedom. Freedom from guilt, freedom from chaos, freedom from regret. When you have discipline, you don't need to panic about deadlines. You've already planned ahead. You don't fall apart when temptation shows up. You've trained your focus like a muscle. The Stoics knew this deeply. They believed that the man who is ruled by pleasure or fear or distraction is not free. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. It's about having the strength to do what's right, even when it's hard. So if you've ever thought, I just want more peace in my life, or I wish I had more time, just ask yourself, am I willing to build the daily habits that create that peace in that time? Discipline may be quiet. It doesn't show off, but it always pays off. Start small. One promise to yourself a day. One action that your future self will thank you for. Because the real win isn't just checking a task off your list. It's becoming the kind of person who keeps showing up, no matter what. And that's a kind of freedom no one can take from you. Part 9, motivation won't always be there. Let's get one thing straight. Motivation is amazing when it shows up. You feel energized, focused, almost unstoppable. But here's the problem. Motivation is like a friend who shows up late, leaves early, and only comes around when things are fun. So what do you do when it's not there? What happens on those mornings when you wake up tired, uninspired, and questioning everything you said you wanted yesterday? That's where most people give up because they're still waiting to feel ready. They're waiting for motivation to knock on the door and pull them into action. But here's the truth. Consistency will take you places that motivation never will. Success, growth, confidence, these things aren't built on how excited you are today. They're built on how committed you stay tomorrow and the next day and the next. Think of it like brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to do it. You just do it because it's a system, not a mood. It's not about hype. It's about hygiene. And your goals deserve the same treatment. Let's say you want to write a book. There will be days when the words flow like magic and days when writing feels like dragging rocks uphill. But if you show up anyway, you're a writer. Not because you're always inspired, but because you're always consistent. The key is this: build systems, not just excitement. Set routines that hold you up when your energy dips. Create habits that carry you even when your heart feels heavy. Don't rely on a feeling, rely on a framework. The Stoics had a word for this: prohairesis, the power of inner choice. They didn't wait for the perfect moment to act. They made discipline the default. They showed up, not because it was easy, but because it was aligned with who they chose to be. So the next time you feel stuck, don't ask yourself, do I feel motivated today? Instead, ask, what does the person I want to become do right now? And then do that, even if it's not perfect, even if it's small. Because the path to greatness isn't paved with bursts of inspiration. It's built brick by brick through ordinary days and consistent effort. That's how you win. Not once, but over and over again. Part 10, you will fail. And that's okay. Let's get something straight. You will fail, not once, not twice, but over and over again. And that's not a warning. It's an invitation. Because failure, despite everything we've been taught, is not the end. It's information. It's feedback. It's your life telling you, not this way, try another. But let's be honest, most of us were raised to fear it. We grew up thinking failure meant you weren't good enough, smart enough, strong enough, that it was shameful, that it should be hidden. And because of that belief, we hesitate. We play small. We talk ourselves out of taking the leap just to avoid the sting of falling. But here's what the most resilient people know. Every success story is a failure story rewritten. Look at any great entrepreneur, artist, athlete, philosopher. Behind their breakthrough is a string of breakdowns. They just didn't stop. They failed fast. They learned. They adjusted. And they moved forward with more clarity than before. Think about Thomas Edison. He didn't invent the light bulb on his first try. He failed thousands of times, but when asked about it, he said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That mindset, that's everything. Because failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the path to it. When you fail, you don't go backward. You evolve. You gain insight that you can never get from theory or comfort. You learn what matters, what works, and most importantly, what doesn't. And here's the powerful part. You build emotional muscle, the kind that can handle setbacks, the kind that keeps going when things get hard, the kind that turns experience into wisdom. So instead of asking, "What if I fail?" try asking, "What if I never try, just because I was afraid?" Which outcome do you think you'll regret more? Failure is not your enemy. Avoiding failure is. Because if you're not failing at something right now, maybe you're not pushing hard enough. Maybe you're not growing. Remember this, your worth is not defined by how many times you fall, but by how many times you rise. So go out there, try boldly, fall forward, fail wisely. Because the road to your greatest self is paved with 100 small stumbles, and every one of them teaches you how to walk stronger. Part 11. Some people aren't meant to stay. Let's talk about something we all face but rarely prepare for. Letting go of people. At some point in life, you'll realize that not everyone who walks into your world is meant to stay. Some people are lessons, some are seasons, and a few, just a few, are lifers. But many will drift, some will clash, and others you'll have to walk away from, even if it hurts. That's not a failure. That's life doing its quiet work of refinement. You see, we're conditioned to hold on, to friendships, to relationships, to anyone who once felt familiar, even when the energy shifts, even when the connection starts to drain instead of nourish. Why? Because the thought of losing someone often feels more painful than the quiet erosion of staying. But here's the truth most of us avoid. Clinging to the wrong people blocks the right ones from entering. Think about it. How much time, emotional bandwidth, and mental space do we give to people who no longer see us, hear us, or grow with us? How often do we stay in relationships just because of history instead of alignment? It's like trying to read a new chapter while keeping your finger wedged in the old one. Eventually your hand cramps, and the story never truly moves forward. And it's not always dramatic. Some good people simply grow in different directions. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means your paths were meant to cross, not to merge. What's dangerous is when we ignore that truth, when we keep investing in connections that have expired. That's how bitterness grows. That's how we begin to resent the very people we once loved. I'm not saying to give up easily. I'm saying pay attention. When someone constantly brings chaos, drains your energy, disrespects your boundaries, or no longer shares your values, it's not growth to keep holding on. It's avoidance. Avoidance of solitude. Avoidance of change. Avoidance of discomfort. But real growth? It often begins in the letting go. When you release someone who's no longer aligned with your direction, you create space for peace, for clarity, and for the kind of people who truly see and support the version of you you're becoming. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It doesn't erase the memories or invalidate the good moments. It simply means you've decided to stop watering something that's no longer growing. Ask yourself, what would happen if you freed yourself from the obligation to carry relationships that no longer lift you? What might you gain in return? Because here's the beautiful part. When you stop settling for half-hearted connections, you raise the standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. You create room for relationships rooted in respect, depth, and reciprocity. Some people aren't meant to stay, and that's not something to grieve endlessly. It's something to honor. Thank them for the lesson. Release them with love, and then walk forward, lighter, clearer, and ready for what's next. Because in the end, the ones who are meant to be in your life won't need to be held on too tightly. They'll stay because your souls are walking the same way. Part 12. You're going to die, and that's why life matters. Let's pause for a moment and face the one truth we all share, but rarely talk about. You're going to die. Not someday in the abstract, not just eventually, but for real. Your time is limited. Mine too. Everyone's. And while that might sound dark, here's the twist. It's not meant to scare you. It's meant to wake you up. We live like we have forever. We scroll through our phones, delay dreams, hold grudges, chase validation, avoid hard conversations, all while assuming we've got unlimited tomorrows waiting for us. But we don't. Your life has an expiration date. You just don't know when it is. And strangely, that's what gives it power. Because when you really feel your mortality, not as a quote on a screen, but as something real, you stop wasting time. You stop sweating over trivial things. You stop postponing your joy. The Stoics had a phrase for this: memento mori. Remember death, not to be morbid, but to sharpen your awareness, to live with urgency, with depth, with purpose. Let me ask you something. If you knew you had only 1 year left, how differently would you live? Would you keep scrolling through negativity? Would you stay in that toxic relationship? Would you keep saying, someday? Or would you finally say what needs to be said? Would you start creating, healing, loving now? See, the point isn't to panic, it's to get clear. When you embrace death, you start to filter your life. You stop giving energy to things that don't matter. You become intentional about how you show up, who you spend time with, and what you give your heart to. Because here's the secret. You don't need more time. You need more meaning in the time you already have. And that's a choice. So take a breath. Look around. You're alive right now. That's not a guarantee. That's a gift. Use it. Forgive quicker. Speak truth. Create things that outlive you. Spend time with people who make your soul feel at home. Take risks that your future self will thank you for. And stop waiting for the perfect moment, because this is it. The awareness of death doesn't shrink your life. It expands it. It forces you to ask every single day, is this worth my one wild and fleeting life? And if the answer is no, change it. Because yes, you're going to die. But before you do, you get to live fully, boldly, on your own terms. So don't waste that gift. The truth will set you free. Let's bring it all together. All the truths we've shared today, they aren't meant to break you. They're here to liberate you. Because real happiness isn't about avoiding discomfort. It's not about chasing some perfect version of life where nothing hurts and everything goes your way. That world doesn't exist. And deep down, you know that. What makes a life powerful, fulfilling, free, isn't perfection. It's alignment. Alignment with what's real, with what's true. You see, we spend so much of our lives trying to escape. Escape hard conversations. Escape failure. Escape being disliked, rejected, or disappointed. But the more we run, the more exhausted we become. What if, instead of running, you turned around and faced it all? What if, instead of resisting life, you accepted it? Not in a passive, give-up kind of way, but in a clear-eyed, fully awake kind of way. Because acceptance doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop lying to yourself. It means you stop wishing things were different and start working with what is. That's when the shift happens. That's when you stop waiting for happiness and start choosing it. Happiness rooted in honesty, in courage, in showing up each day not to control everything, but to live on purpose. Ask yourself right now, am I living in resistance or in alignment? Do I spend more energy avoiding reality than embracing it? Do I fill my time chasing comfort instead of creating meaning? If you've been caught in that loop, you're not alone. We all fall into it, but you don't have to stay there. Every harsh truth we explored, whether it's about time, people, failure, discipline, or death, isn't here to crush you. It's here to invite you to step up, to let go of the illusion, and to start living from a place of strength, honesty, and intention. Because once you do, life gets lighter, not easier, but lighter. There's less mental clutter, less drama, less chasing what doesn't matter. And in that space, you find peace. Not the peace of everything being perfect, but the peace of you being real. So as you move forward, carry this with you. Don't fear the truth. Use it. Let it sharpen your decisions. Let it simplify your priorities. Let it fuel your growth. And most importantly, let it remind you that your life is yours to shape. You don't need more comfort. You need more clarity. You don't need a different life. You need a different lens. You don't need to be someone else. You need to become yourself, fully, bravely, intentionally. So take a deep breath. Let go of the illusion and start showing up for the life that's here, now, waiting for you to live it. Because freedom doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from facing the truth and finally being at peace with it.